Hi, students. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Super Grads. I'm your English mentor, Sana Jaffrey, and I welcome you to the Hindu Editorial Analysis. Okay, so I hope you've been watching my sessions regularly. Apart from that, I very much hope that you have been reading regularly, as there are no shortcuts to comprehension. The more you read, the better you become. And reading any which way is a very beneficial exercise. Don't you see it with a very narrow conception, right? It has multiple benefits. It is going to make your language extremely flawless, right? It'll give you a good foundation that you need right now as and when you are kickstarting your preparation. Hi, Ayush, spot on time. Hello, Rohan. I am good. I hope you're good as well. Good afternoon. So good to see you guys. Okay, so we begin the discussion, right? This is the Hindu editorial page, followed by the opinion page. So let's like quickly go through it. I like this one, arrest and liberty, and so we'll be taking this up because this is with respect to ED raiding on various people and on the suspicion of PMLA, right? Money Laundering Act, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. This is very important. Time to time ये न्यूज में आता रहता है, so we must be knowing about it. Okay. Uh, Hi, Uzair. Okay, and then yes, you have some nice editorials. This was on agriculture, but the language was very easy, so I did not pick it up. There's another one which is very pertinent, the problems with subcaste reservations. So reservation system has always been an extremely contentious issue in our country, right? Highly debatable, very likely to create discord and dissent among people. So it's important that we have our opinions in place and we should be abreast with all that's happening, right? So of course, these were some of the articles. I'll be picking up this and this. दो से ज़्यादा तो हम कर ही ना पाएंगे, but then जितना करें अच्छे से करें, ठीक है? Okay. So let's take this one in detail. Yeah. I hope the font size is good enough. You can, yeah, now I think it's perfect, perfectly legible, readable, I would say rather, visible clearly, and I'm also audible. Chalo, theek hai. Rohan, I've already replied to you. I am good. Alive and kicking, as we say. I hope you're good as well. चलिए ठीक है. So let's proceed. This is a very nice one. थोड़ी सी language भी इसकी थोड़ी सी difficult है. So I thought let's read this together and understand. Arrest and liberty. Is proof of necessity a prerequisite for the ED to arrest accused under PMLA? Now this has been put up as a question. Fine. Now हो सकता है एक heading question के form में लिखी जाती है, either to actually stir up the interest of the reader's mind, or to capture the interest of the reader, right? Or sometimes maybe that there is no clear cut answer given in the passage itself. It is simply something that is being processed. हो सकता है अभी इसका क्लियर आंसर बताया नहीं गया है पैसेज में, बट इस मुद्दे पे गहरा चिंतन और एनालिसिस किया जा रहा है, ठीक है? सो देखते हैं व्हाट इज द केस. यहाँ पे वी गेट a very nice word, prerequisite. Pre matlab before, requisite, requirement. So prerequisite simply means a prior requirement. इसका मतलब ये है कि क्या नेसेसिटी का प्रूफ देना जरूरी है ईडी को अरेस्ट करने से पहले. इफ ईडी फील्स दैट द पर्सन इज suspicious because of whatever reason, fine, ho sakta hai the person is involved in money laundering. I hope you know about money laundering. What is money laundering? Money laundering hoti hai when you illegitimately earn some money and then you try to hide it through multiple ways. Okay, so it is money laundering, obviously is clubbed with tax evasion because you are evading the tax, you are hiding your money is illegal, illegitimate. So either people try to offshore it, or they try to put it in some foreign banks, or through some fishy transfers, or maybe try to invest that money elsewhere in through somebody else's account. तो ये सारे जो गेम्स खेले जाते हैं जो आपका इलीगल पैसा होता है, ब्लैक मनी होती है, उसको छुपाने के लिए ये होता है मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग, राइट? सो प्रूफ ऑफ नेसेसिटी जरूरी है क्या? ये एक प्रायर रिक्वायरमेंट है बिफोर मेकिंग एनी अरेस्ट अंडर पीएमएलए? दैट्स द क्वेश्चन. Two observations made in different context or background by the Supreme Court of India have raised relevant issues concerning personal liberty. ठीक है? So there are two observations that Supreme Court has made. Of course, the context is clear. The context is arrests under PMLA. Okay? So they are relevant issues. They are raising some very important issues, especially concerning personal liberty. I am an individual. If an officer from ED on the slightest pretext wants to arrest me, he can arrest me very easily. So what about my personal liberty? क्या मेरी कोई फ्रीडम नहीं है? फाइन, क्या कोई शक के बिना पे मुझे ऐसे ही अरेस्ट कर सकता है? द केस इज रिलेटेड टू एक्शंस अंडर द प्रिवेंशन ऑफ मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग एक्ट. And the significance of these observations lies in the extent to which courts are inclined to protect personal liberty in the face of a determined government that wants its agencies to have their way. To have their way मतलब हम एक रास्ता ढूंढ ले, हमें जो करना है, we will find our way. हम by hook or by crook what we want to do, we can do. Okay, that is, having your way. तो ये कहता है, ये सेंटेंस क्या कहता है? जो कुछ केसेस आए हैं पीएमएलए के अंडर, राइट, और कुछ ऑब्जर्वेशंस सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने किए हैं, ये हमें क्या बता रहा है? दे लाइज इन द एक्सटेंट टू व्हिच कोर्ट्स आर इंक्लाइंड टू प्रोटेक्ट पर्सनल लिबर्टी. अब ये डिपेंड करता है, ये सब हाईलाइट करते हैं कि कोर्ट्स किस हद तक डिफेंड करेंगे पर्सनल लिबर्टी ऑफ अ सिटीजन ऑफ द इंडिया और सिटीजन ऑफ आवर कंट्री, स्पेशली व्हेन द पर्सन इज अपोज्ड टू अ गवर्नमेंट, द गवर्नमेंट व्हिच इज adamant on finding its way. तो the courts have to define or decide between the two aspects. एक तरफ आपका क्या है? गवर्नमेंट है, ईडी है, और दूसरी तरफ है आपकी सिटीजन्स. तो कोर्ट पे डिपेंड करता है how they strike the balance between these two things. Is this much clear? One concerned the question. Now, one here is being used as a pronoun pointing out to which the two observations. Otherwise, app students sometimes, they feel lost. One concern, what is this talking about? Fine, if I say Supreme Court made two observations, one about this, second, the other about this. So the one and the other, we are talking about the observations. So one concerned the question whether an officer arresting a person on money laundering charges should demonstrate the necessity for arrest for the action to be deemed valid. The first question is, if there is an ED officer, okay, who is arresting a person on charges of money laundering, should he demonstrate the necessity for arrest? Why is it so important? Why is it so necessary for you to arrest that person? Right? On a mere suspicion? Or what is the need? If you demonstrate the necessity, only then will your action be considered as valid. Otherwise, that arrest might be deemed as not a very valid move. Okay? The first observation is this. The second is, and the other voiced shock and revulsion at the ease and quickness with which courts were staying reasoned orders granting bail. So class, sometimes it happens that, students might be good with their comprehension in general, but then in specific contexts, कई बार ऐसा होता है कि कुछ particular ऐसे jargons आ जाते हैं which become very problematic and students are not able to understand. For example, legal jargons भी काफी baffling हो सकते हैं students के लिए. तो इसलिए मैं उठा रही हूँ हरी genre के passages and editorials so that you develop some nice jargons also. तो दूसरा क्या था? It was shock and revulsion. What is revulsion? आप revulsion को repulsion से भी equate कर सकते हैं. They are almost synonyms. Fine, when you find something very repulsive, you feel that it is so bad, it is so shocking. ठीक है ना? तो ये तो दूसरा क्या हो गया कि उनको शॉक महसूस हो रहा था और रिपल्शन, और ऐसा लग रहा था कि कितने इजीली और कितने क्विकली कोर्ट्स जो हैं they were staying reasoned orders granting bail. Now what does this mean? Imagine a person is arrested, fine, under PMLA. And he approaches the court and the court grants him bail. वो उसको bail दे देती है. तो फिर जो prosecutors हैं या जो in this case government है, they normally approach the higher courts. और जो higher courts हैं वो क्या कह रहे हैं? वो स्टे लगा देते हैं. सो अ स्टे ऑन बेल ऑर्डर का क्या मतलब होता है? फाइन. रोहन, ये तो एक्चुअली आपको सब्सक्रिप्शन लेना पड़ जाता है, ठीक है ना? ये एडिटोरियल जो पीडीएफ्स हैं, um, you'll have to take a subscription. Maybe you with your group of friends you can do that and then read it. Okay, so this is about stay on bail order. मतलब क्या होता है कि अगर बेल आपको, एक कोर्ट ने बेल ग्रांट कर दी है, तो देयर इज अ हायर कोर्ट व्हिच विल पुट अ स्टे ऑन इट, सेइंग दैट नहीं, अब तुम्हारी बेल नहीं होगी, अब तुम जेल में ही पड़े रहो. दैट इज इट. एंड इट इज सेइंग रीजनड ऑर्डर्स, रीजनेबल है. Fine. So Supreme Court has observed that there are many courts which are unnecessarily putting a stay on bail orders. Is this much clear? Exactly, Uzair. The person will not get bail. A bench headed by Justice Sanjeev Khanna granted interim bail for the second time since his arrest in March. ठीक है? To Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal in the course of a discussion on the legality of his arrest by the Enforcement Directorate. फाइन. तो ईडी एनफोर्समेंट डायरेक्टरेट, अब अरविंद केजरीवाल का केस सबको पता है किस तरह से वो जेल में थे. ट्वाइस उनको इंटरिम बेल दी गई है. फाइन. The 64-page verdict ended with a reference to a larger bench. The question whether the ED would have to prove the need or necessity to arrest a person before effecting an arrest. तो ये एक बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा है. This is still under discussion. Fine. So there's a very long verdict that has been given to a larger bench. Okay. And this particular aspect has been discussed there. Whether क्या ED को prove करना पड़ेगा necessity to arrest. Yani random they can come to anybody and on mere suspicions can they actually incarcerate the person, right? That's a good question. Before effecting an arrest, अब देखिए, effect to effect, वैसे तो effect एक noun होता है ना, जिसका मतलब होता है प्रभाव या असर किसी चीज का, है ना? But here effect has been used as a verb. और effect here is implement करना. ये बहुत important चीज है. Remember this. Effect, when is being used as a verb, it actually means that you are implementing something. Effecting an arrest, you are executing an arrest. Effecting a policy, you are bringing that policy into motion. You are putting it into motion. Got this? All right. I hope this much is clear. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Section 19 of PMLA speaks of the arresting officer being required to have reason to believe that the person is guilty of money laundering before effecting arrest. Now, PMLA में क्या provision है? Fine, PMLA simply says that the arresting officer must have a reason to believe. Now, this is very vague, don't you think so? But then उन्होंने बस इतना ही बोला that you must have a reason to believe that this person has done money laundering. Before arresting the person, you must have some concrete reason. Okay? The PMLA casts a statutory obligation on an officer to both record reasons for arrest and convey grounds for arrest to the accused. Now there is, now very interestingly, जो law है वो कितना implement हो रहा है transparency के साथ में, that is a question, because PMLA has a statutory obligation, a very mandatory obligation है ये एक legal obligation है जो officer को करना चाहिए. क्या? That they have to put up their reasons for arrest and they also have to convey the grounds for arrest. Grounds refers to reasons. Why are we arresting you? Okay, this is the reason. Fine, transparently it should be communicated. Whether these obligations include a duty to demonstrate the necessity to arrest the person will have to be decided. Now, this is not decided whether you have to prove or demonstrate the necessity. इतनी क्यों necessary move थी ये कि आपको arrest करना पड़ रहा है? ये आपको prove करना पड़ेगा कि नहीं? That has to be decided. This is still not clear. That's the reason why heading आपकी question mark में थी, if you remember. Yeah, Uzair, I think so. It is established that the existence of a power is not sufficient justification for exercising it. The heartening feature of the court's order is that it lays down the view that the authorized officer's decision on arrest ought to be rooted in compliance with statutory requirements and one that a magistrate or judge can examine. अब यहाँ पे देखो इसका क्या मतलब है. अगर तुम्हारे पास में power है, if there is some power that exists with you, it's not sufficient justification for exercising it. मेरे पास में पावर है, मैं किसी को भी अरेस्ट कर लूं तो क्या मैं अरेस्ट कर सकती हूँ किसी को भी? It's not based on my whims and fancies, right? I have the power does not mean it's not justified that I exercise that power as and when I feel. Okay. uh, there's a feature of the court's order and it says that the officer's decision to arrest should be rooted in का मतलब क्या होता है? Based on. Okay. Compliance with statutory requirements. You'll have to comply. What is compliance? What is to comply? To follow the rules. सो जो स्टैट्यूटरी रिक्वायरमेंट से अरेस्ट करने से पहले वो पूरे के पूरे फॉलो होना चाहिए और ऐसी चीजें होनी चाहिए जो एक जज वेरीफाई कर पाए, जो एक जज एग्जामिन कर पाए. इट शुड बी इन ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट. The court has also done well to reiterate that arrests under the PMLA cannot be on a mere whim and that decisions during investigation should consider exculpatory material too and not merely material against the accused. Now, this is nice. This kind of language, when students read, they often become yeah. So this kind of language which is flashy, which is stuffed with words, sometimes, it perplexes students a lot. Reiterate, whim. There's some nice words that we come across. Exculpatory. So all I'm trying to say here is that reiterate का मतलब क्या होता है? To reiterate is to re-emphasize. Emphasize something. Okay? To emphasize. Or to stress over something. Whim क्या होते हैं? तुम्हारे whims and fancies, eccentricities होती हैं. A sudden idea that got into your head. आज तो यार मेरा दिल चाह रहा है कि मैं ना ये एडिटोरियल ना पढ़ाऊं. आज तो मैं ना मतलब आज तो मैं जीके पढ़ाऊंगी, आज तो मैं ग्रामर पढ़ाऊंगी. मेरे विम्स है. ऐसा थोड़ी है जो मुझे दिया गया मुझे वैसे ही करना है. But if you're being whimsical, you have a strange idea or you have taken fancy to something and you start doing something randomly. Okay, that is being very whimsical. Find strange or playful in an eccentric way. Exculpate करना मतलब किसी को free करना from blame or charge. Now that we know these words, I'm sure we can understand the sentence better. तो सबसे पहले तो वो ये कह रहा है कि कोर्ट ने रीटरेट किया, एम्फसाइज किया, स्ट्रेस किया दैट अरेस्ट अंडर पीएमएलए कैन नॉट बी ऑन अ मियर विम. ये कोई विम नहीं हो सकता, चलो यार केजरीवाल को परेशान करते हैं, राइट? इट कैन नॉट बी बेस्ड ऑन एनी विम. It has to be on concrete reasons and evidence that can be examined by the magistrate. Okay. Secondly, decisions during investigation should consider exculpatory material too. अगर आपको मटीरियल मिलता, एविडेंस मिलता है, वन दैट इज अगेंस्ट द अक्यूज, तो ऐसे भी 10 एविडेंस मिलेंगे which can actually prove that the person is innocent, the person is not guilty. So when I say exculpatory material, मतलब वो मटीरियल जो बेगुनाही साबित कर दे. Is this much clear? Okay? मतलब आपको दोनों टाइप की पूरी चीज देखो, है ना, फेयर तरीके से देखो और फिर decide karo whether we need to arrest the person or not. The other issue regarding another bench shock over courts staying bail orders touches upon a key aspect of contemporary judicial functioning. Now, Supreme Court has expressed shock and revulsion over courts stopping the bail, right? And this says that what kind of judicial functioning do we have right now? कैसे हमारे courts function कर रहे हैं? What are they doing? The vehemence with which the prosecution argues its case, be it against bail or challenging a court's order granting it seems to be a major factor in the approach of higher courts. ये देखने को मिलता है कि बड़ी vehemence. What is vehemence? What is vehemence? Absolutely, Uzair. You're very active. I appreciate that. Okay, vehemence क्या होता है? Vehemence is when you're being very forceful. Okay, बहुत ही intensity के साथ में एकदम fierce passion के साथ में जब आप कोई चीज कर रहे हो, you do something with a lot of passion, right? That is vehemence. तो जो prosecution है, जो prosecute कर रहा है, जो प्रूव कर रहा है दैट दिस पर्सन इज गिल्टी और हैज डन द क्राइम, वो लोग इतने फोर्सफुली अपना केस प्रेजेंट करते हैं, फाइन, अगेंस्ट द बेल दैट द कोर्ट seems to hear them out, right? And they get probably influenced. Fine. And this turns out to be a very major factor. And that's why courts put a kind of a stay on the bail. As the bench noted, a stay on reasoned orders ought to be rare exceptions based on grounds such as perversity by the lower court and not done as a matter of routine. So, अगर lower court ने bail दे दी है and higher court जो है वो उसको stay कर रहा है, so that should not be a norm. That should be only when the lower court has become perverse. What is perversity? What is being perverse? Perverse is when you indulge in unacceptable behavior, when you do things which are very unacceptable or which are against the norms or convention. तो अगर लोअर कोर्ट ने लॉजिकल रीजंस पर बेल ग्रांट की है तो फिर तो ठीक है, फाइन, आप फिर क्यों रोक रहे हो? अगर उन्होंने परवर्स बिहेवियर किया है, इफ दे हैव डन सम काइंड ऑफ एन एनोमली, देन द हायर कोर्ट्स कैन एक्चुअली पुट अ स्टे, नॉट अदरवाइज. सो दैट्स व्हाट इट्स सेइंग. दिस हैज बिकम अ मैटर ऑफ रूटीन एंड हेंस इट इज वेरी शॉकिंग. एंड दिस इज द एंड टू द एडिटोरियल. फाइन. Yes, Sarthak. Okay, good to hear from you. Now let's move to the detailed analysis where we will discuss what is the main idea, and we will of course talk about the numerous words that we have learned. We'll take those words in slight detail. We will also consider the important ideas that we have distilled from the passage. Arrest and liberty. It highlights the Supreme Court's, let me change my pen so that's more visible. Yeah. It highlights the Supreme Court's efforts to ensure that arrests under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, PMLA, are justified, necessary, and compliant with statutory requirements. है ना? सुप्रीम कोर्ट ये बोल रहा है दैट आपको एंश्योर करना चाहिए ईडी को कि जो अरेस्ट वो पीएमएलए के अंडर कर रहा है वो जस्टिफाइड हो, नेसेसरी हो और लीगल रिक्वायरमेंट्स के हिसाब से हो, while also addressing concerns about the routine staying of bail orders. And the second observation was this कि बहुत ज्यादा ही stay orders लग रहे हैं, बेल स्टे लग रहा है बेल ऑर्डर्स के ऊपर, तो उस पे उन्होंने अपना कंसर्न जताया है. इट ऑल्सो एम्फसाइजेस द इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ प्रोटेक्टिंग पर्सनल लिबर्टी एंड द नीड फॉर जुडिशियल स्क्रूटनी इन द अरेस्ट एंड बेल प्रोसेसेस. के शुरू में ही उन्होंने बोला था कि नाउ इट्स अप टू द कोर्ट्स हाउ दे बैलेंस दिस, राइट? देयर इज एन इंडिविजुअल हु हैज अ सेंस ऑफ लिबर्टी, राइट? सो वी आल्सो हैव टू अपहोल्ड और प्रोटेक्ट द लिबर्टी ऑफ द इंडिविजुअल. Fine. So I think this was the main idea. Tone is definitely concerned. The author looks very concerned, and even the Supreme Court here has expressed a concern, grave and serious concern over what is happening in the judicial process regarding arrests made by ED under PMLA. Fine. So concerned hai. Domain genre is legal analysis or judicial commentary. Both may work, right? So क्योंकि हम analysis कर रहे हैं कि what are the provisions of PMLA and what should be done, and entire situation or cases being presented in the form of a commentary, and of course the domain here is legal or judicial, right? I hope this much is clear. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Let's quickly browse through the main highlights of the passage. I think we've already explained the passage, so I will just be perusing it. So the background is Supreme Court made important observations concerning personal liberty in the context of actions under PMLA, right? Necessity for arrest की बात हुई. Court examine कर रहा है whether an officer arresting a person under PMLA PMLA must demonstrate the necessity for the arrest to be valid. It is still a question. Necessity for arrest बताना है कि नहीं बताना है. Fine. Then it says that reason to believe. What is the existing provision? PMLA का एक section है जो कहता है reason to believe होना बहुत जरूरी है. And you also have to record it and convey it to the arrested person. The court emphasizes that decision to arrest should comply with statutory requirements. Judiciary examine कर पाए उसका ऐसा होना चाहिए. ठीक है. And while you are considering the evidence, आप अगर इंक्रिमिनेटिंग देख रहे हो तो एक्सकल्पेटरी एविडेंस भी देखो. अगर आप उसका कुछ क्रिमिनल देख रहे हो जो नेगेटिव है तो आप पॉजिटिव भी देखो जिससे वो बंदा फ्री भी हो सकता है. I understand your question is that so many tones and tones are confusing. Well, tones are not just confusing, they are also overlapping. So that becomes tricky, of course. आपको ये समझना होगा कि पैसेज में जब आपको टोन दिया होगा, class, I will come up with some of the other YouTube sessions, right? If you're not an enrolled student of super grads, at least we are doing so much on our YouTube channel. So sometime soon, maybe I'll take a session on tones. So that way, maybe I can help you better. Okay? Baki, to you can practice the questions and eliminate the options. If there are options given to you for tone identification, कभी ना कभी कोई ना कोई ground legitimate होगा जिसके basis पे आप tones को eliminate कर पाओगे, है ना? Options will be given in such a fashion that you will be able to eliminate them, okay? And सबसे dominant tone आपको पकड़ना होती है. That always keep in mind, okay? अरविंद केजरीवाल के केस को बताया गया that he was granted bail. And staying bail orders पे बात हुई that SC has expressed concern and they should be rare and not a matter of routine. And finally, it is highlighted the importance of protecting personal liberty of citizens. That's it. Important point. So if you read in such a fashion that all the important ideas are crystal clear in your mind, they are etched in your memory, your answers will definitely be spot on. Your accuracy will go high. You will be able to save on your time while solving passages because you will not have to go to and fro from the question to the passage and then back to the question. So the shuttling to and fro will not be there, and you will have that clarity with which you will get your answers right. Okay. Now we come to vocabulary vortex. I'm putting up a very important question here. Vocabulary vortex इस word में कौन सी literary device है? Once my live session is over, I want you people to answer this in the comment section. The hint is, I feel there are two literary devices. You have to name both of them. One of them is very obvious. I want you to come up with at least two literary devices. Okay? Chalo, theek hai. Some nice words here. Revulsion, as discussed. A strong feeling of disgust or repulsion. जब तुमको ना किसी चीज से एकदम ऐसा लगता है ना कि मतलब घिन सी आ गई है और रिपल्शन होने लगा, हटाओ इसको. You don't like something, you feel it is so wrong or so bad, so upsetting, that is revulsion. She felt a wave of revulsion when she saw the dirty, neglected conditions of the abandoned house. घर है, उसमें छिपकलियां घूम रही हैं, जाले लगे हैं. It is so dingy, it is so dirty. She felt that there was, she felt or experienced a wave of revulsion. Synonyms: disgust, repugnance, abhorrence, loathing, distaste. See, abhorrence and loathing refer to a sense or a feeling of hatred. When you hate something, you loathe it. Is this much clear? Fine. Exculpatory. To exculpate. To exculpate. This is the verb form. Exculpatory, this becomes the adjective form. Okay. So coming to this verb form, to clear someone from blame or guilt for a wrongdoing or accusation. If some charges are leveled against a person, you free them from blame, right? You acquit them. Synonyms: acquit, बहुत important word है. Acquit, absolve, vindicate. You can even say exonerate. The court exculpated the defendant after reviewing the compelling evidence presented by the defense attorney. The defendant who was जिस पे charges लगे थे, he was trying to defend himself. Is the defendant, उसको finally exculpate कर दिया गया क्योंकि काफी कंपेलिंग एविडेंस था, फोर्सफुल एविडेंस था जो उसके डिफेंस अटॉर्नी ने प्रेजेंट किया. ओके, या डिटेस्ट. विम, a sudden or capricious idea, desire or impulse. Suddenly, चलो आज पिकनिक पे चलते हैं, right? एकदम से विदाउट एनी प्लानिंग, कुछ भी सडनली यू फील लाइक डूइंग समथिंग, a sudden change of idea or mind, fickle mindedness, playfulness in a very strange and unusual way, that is whim. Foible, whimsy, caprice, very important. Fancy, you take to a fancy, impulse. He decided he decided to redecorate. Acha, she decided to redecorate her entire living room on a whim, inspired by a magazine article she had just read. अब भी उसने एक आर्टिकल पढ़ा, उसको एक थीम समझ में आ गई है, उधर पे उस आर्टिकल में कुछ था, तो उसने सडनली सोचा मैं तो अपने पूरे लिविंग रूम को ऐसे रीडेकोरेट कर दूं. दिस इज वेरी whimsical, है ना? Vehemence, strong, forceful and passionate emotion or intensity. Vehemently, when you do something vehemently, you do that very forcefully. Okay. The lawyer's vehemence in defending his client was evidence in his vehement arguments and vigorous objections during the trial. Synonyms: intensity, fervor, very important word. Ardor, very important. Immense, immense. Passion, intense passion. Jatin, see, here I would honestly say that we are covering only 2 articles, not more than that. But there's much more to go through. So, इसलिए I would suggest if you can get a subscription. अगर आपके घर में कोई दूसरा पेपर आता है, Indian Express is also good enough. In that case, you can read that. All right. वैसे, by the way, there are so many other papers which are available, so many dailies which are available, and you can if you want to avoid the subscription cost, you can go for them. The Print, the Wire, Telegraph, right? So ये सब भी अच्छी खासी articles देते हैं. You can read them online, that's okay. If you don't want to subscribe to it, there are options. Okay, all right. Perversity, when you're perverse, आप कुछ unreasonable या unacceptable behavior, inappropriate behavior करते हो. Deliberate and stubborn desire to behave in an unreasonable or unacceptable way. जिद्दी भी होते हो कि नहीं मैंने तो यही करना है. Okay. Vigorous, very strong. Obstinacy, contrariness, waywardness, very important word. When you are wayward, तुम सही रास्ते पे नहीं हो, aberrant behavior है तुम्हारा. Willfulness, the perversity of the teenager was evident through his objectionable acts. बहुत ही objectionable acts. Rooted in, firmly established or based on a particular source or principle. Fine, हमने I think कल ही किया था juvenile justice पर एक article. तो the juvenile justice system was rooted in a notion that adolescents need a second chance. They can be reformed. Rooted in, based on some principle. The company's policies are deeply rooted in the principles of fairness and equality. Synonyms: based on, founded on, anchored in, derived from, established in. Okay, Jatin, I'm glad. If it's not just about the cost, I would suggest tum pad lo, even if you're not interested in news, because this is going to help you even when you have to face any interview. Leave aside IIMs. There are so many plethora of other private universities that offer good courses, BBA courses. They also have interview rounds. So most of the institutes have an interview round, and in the interview round, you're bound to face questions based on current affairs. And as a management graduate, you should be very well aware of not just what is happening in your country, but all around the world. Fine? ठीक है? Is this much clear? Fine. So आगे बढ़ते हैं. Perversity. Okay, the perversity of the criminal could be assessed through the enormity of the crime. The crime was so जिसको हम कहते हैं ना, full of enormity and cruelty, that we could assess how perverse the criminal was. ठीक है? I hope this much helps, Uzair. हाँ, सार्थक. एऑन एसेज लंबे लग रहे हैं तो थोड़ा सा एऑन आइडियाज पढ़ के देखो एक बार, एऑन आइडियाज करके गूगल करना, you'll get some shorter stuff. ठीक है सार्थक? नाउ वी आर डन विद द फर्स्ट वन. अब जो एक सेकंड आर्टिकल है उस पे थोड़ा सा आपको पहले मैं दिखाती हूँ, एंड वी विल नॉट बी टेकिंग दैट अप इन डिटेल. हियर इज द आर्टिकल. The problem with subcaste reservations. So, what is this essentially talking about? What do you mean by this? Subcaste reservations. We already have reservations on the basis of caste, like, SC, ST, OBC, and all, right? Now, there are claims that within those castes, there are some subcastes. उन कास्ट्स में भी कुछ सबकास्ट्स हैं और उनके साथ में भी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन होता है, आपस में भी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन होता है, एंड ऑल द perks that are being received in the name of reservation by these backward castes, वो जो सबकास्ट्स हैं कुछ ऐसी हैं जो बेनिफिट नहीं ले पा रहे हैं. कि एक कास्ट है, मान लो एससी है या एसटी है, इनके अंदर भी बहुत सारे अलग अलग सबकास्ट्स होते हैं और इसमें से कुछ है जो आगे हैं और बाकी जो है वो पीछे ही रह जा रहे हैं. सो द बेनिफिट्स आर नॉट बीइंग एक्रूड बाय दीज बैकवर्ड कास्ट्स. तो इनके लिए भी रिजर्वेशन होना चाहिए. सो दिस इज a demand, an increasing demand, okay, that because there are the benefits are not percolating to the lowest echelon, as we say, and hence there is a clamor for subcaste reservation, but the author here has categorically dismissed that, saying that ये सही तरीका नहीं है. okay? तो उनके कहने का सिर्फ ये है, ओवरव्यू मैं आपको दे देती हूँ. वो ये कह रहे हैं कि अगर if they are not able to get public jobs or reach to educational institutions, this is not because they are being discriminated against. This is because they don't have that income or that kind of a capital that they must have. So because they don't have those capital assets, that's the reason why they're not able to go to schools and get access to jobs. So we must try to provide them something so that they can be economically stronger and more capable. Fine, that is the essence. ठीक है, तो इसके मैं आपको फटाफट, we will not go through the entire one. I want you to read this, give it a quick read back home. अभी तो possible नहीं है, and I'll just take you through the main idea and the mind mapping. सबसे पहले main idea, the problems with subcaste reservation क्या है. The text discusses the challenges and solutions related to subcaste reservations in India, emphasizing the need to improve economic and educational opportunities for underrepresented groups to enhance their participation in job reservation. वो कह रहे हैं कि सिर्फ उनको jobs में अलग से कोटा देना, subcaste reservation is not the solution. Rather, we must try to provide them a foundation through which they have better economic and better educational opportunities. Okay, that is the main idea. Tone analytical hai because they're analyzing what are the problems, why is this happening, and what can be the possible solution. So analytical passage mein bahut logical analysis chal raha hota hai. Domain genre policy analysis. This is about the policy, about the law, kya karna chahiye in a country. So this is policy analysis. Important points. Supreme Court's pending decision on subcaste reservation. So ये subcaste reservation की कोई plea थी जिसपे Supreme Court ने hold कर दिया है अपना decision, and they are buying time. They want to examine this and come up with a more informed decision on that. तो फिलहाल उन्होंने इसको pending है decision. Justification needed for subcaste reservations on legal and academic grounds. So legal principles, legal ground के अलावा academic ground, here we actually mean research. Research based proper study होना चाहिए और उसके basis पे ही सबकास्ट रिजर्वेशन के बारे में हम सोचेंगे. We need to justify this on multiple grounds. Weak academic basis for subcaste reservations. If you see this academically, there is a very weak reason why we should provide subcaste reservation. Then they talk about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's three-tiered policy. Tier levels पे होता है, तो मतलब एक तरह से उनकी three-tiered या three-pronged मैं बोलूंगी policy है, Legal safeguards we have to provide to all the untouchables, and back then डॉक्टर बी आर अम्बेडकर उनका जो विजन था वो पूरा समझाया गया डिटेल में कि लीगल सेफगार्ड्स होने चाहिए, रिजर्वेशंस होने चाहिए और इकोनॉमिक एम्पावरमेंट होना चाहिए. And all these three things are interconnected. You go with one and you leave the other two, that's not going to work. Any one of them standalone is not going to work, right? So it has to be uh, interdependent kind of a framework that has to be built. When all three of them will work together in unison, only then can we achieve equality in our society. Fine. Focus on improving capital ownership and education to enhance job participation. You cannot expect people from these backgrounds, because they are from the most marginalized backgrounds of our country. You cannot expect them to suddenly apply for jobs and to be able to stay in the jobs. You have to provide them educational avenues, and we have to give them economic empowerment so that they have better capital ownership. है ना, इनकम उनकी अच्छी हो, फाइनेंस उनका अच्छा हो, तब जाके ही वो जॉब्स तक पहुंच भी पाएंगे. अभी तो उनकी इतनी हाई एजुकेशन होती नहीं है. Critique of subcaste reservations without improving economic and educational conditions. If you simply give them reservation, that's not going to do them any good. You'll have to improve economic and educational conditions. Impact of discrimination versus lack of capabilities in job under representation. Yeah, this tells you that is this discrimination or this is simply lack of capabilities? These people, these marginalized subcastes, why are they underrepresented in jobs? Is this because they have been discriminated against? आपस में एक दूसरे में डिस्क्रिमिनेशन हो रहा है, ये वजह है? या फिर उनमें कैपेबिलिटीज नहीं है? ऑब्वियसली कैपेबिलिटीज नहीं है. सो इट्स स्ट्रेसिंग ऑन कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग. Potential floodgate of demands if subcaste reservations expand without academic justification. अगर आप सिर्फ सबकास्ट रिजर्वेशन देने लग जाओगे एवे just because there's a demand, तो बहुत सारी there's going to be a flurry of demands. फ्लड गेट होता है ना, फ्लड गेट जब खुलता है, जब डैम का गेट, तो किस तरह से उसमें पानी वाटर गशेस आउट, राइट? सो देयर आर गोइंग टू बी डिमांड्स फ्रॉम एवरी क्वार्टर ऑफ द सोसाइटी. हमको भी चाहिए, हमको भी चाहिए, और बहुत सारे होते भी रहे हमारी कंट्री में टाइम एंड अगेन. सो वी कैन नॉट गिव सबकास्ट रिजर्वेशन विदाउट एनी sound academic justification, right? This is the conclusion of this entire passage, right, class? So that's all for today. I hope that you will read the passage, this particular editorial. I have highlighted the important points, I've explained it, I've shared all the details with you. And make sure you meet me every day at 3 p.m., Monday to Friday, where we will be reading things together. And all the articles that we, of course, miss out, which we are bound to, you should read on your own as well. Thank you. That's all for today. Catch you again tomorrow. Signing off. Bye bye. Take care.